Hello there and welcome to my channel. My name is John Henry Sheridan and here's another one of my book reviews. And today we're talking about Tommyland by Tommy Lee and Anthony Bozza, or Tommy Lee with Anthony Bozza. So I'll get straight to it. I am a Motley Crue fan. I have been since 88, probably somewhere around there, since I was a kid, not a huge Motley Crue fan. So I can't say that. Not a huge fan, but they're enough of an influence on my life that I was curious about Tommy Lee. I won't read the Vince Neil book. I saw some reviews and it just seems like kind of whatever. The Nikki Sixx book I'm on the fence about, but Tommy Lee just seems kind of like he's an extreme guy, there's no doubt. But he seems really like a big kid, you know, and this book does show that. So you hear about the women. There's lots of women, lots of sex in this book. But it wasn't overpowering. I think Motley Crue's autobiography called The Dirt. I didn't read it. I don't know if I will. I saw part of the movie and didn't give me a good feeling. I think that's kind of maybe a little sleazy. But Tommy Lee is part of that. But his book doesn't feel sleazy. He approaches sex in a way that's just like it's super exciting to him. So of course it's what he loves. So he's going to talk about it. It's kind of like that. He does seem to be very respectful towards women, if you could believe that. He loses his cool sometimes, and you can imagine he's had ego problems. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't know if that's fair, but ego issues from being such a huge rock star, plus his personality, his natural personality, that things would, get out of hand along the roller coaster of his life many times. But yeah, I think he respects women as a rule, kind of, but his respect for life is very different from the average person's sense, right? Let's put it that way. So he's willing to push boundaries with danger that the average person would never do. He has been. I don't know what he's been like now, but so this book was published 2005, I think it is. So I'm sure he's changed a lot. Okay, so in terms of Motley Crue, he barely talked about Motley Crue. One chapter. The book's not that long. 267 is like the last thing in here, but it ends before that. And there's pictures, not a whole lot of pictures. There's some. So like one chapter about Motley Crue, which I guess was enough. Of course, Motley Crue comes up in the other chapters, but it's not the focus. So it's pretty cool to get a view of Tommy Lee as a person beyond the Motley Crue image. You hear about how one parent is Greek, one parent is American. He played piano as well as other instruments growing up, but he liked drums the most. You find out which bands were a big influence on him. Van Halen was a big influence. That's kind of interesting to me. It's not surprising, but I just didn't know that, because later on they become competition in a way. But when Van Halen's debut album came out, it was really big, and he lived in California, and Tommy Lee was about 14 probably around that time, so that would have been a huge impact, right? and he learned by playing along to records loudly. His father was pretty supportive, even though he was a military guy. He was as supportive as he could be. He gave up his garage space so Tommy and his friends could play there. And then he kind of dedicated 20 plus years of his life to Motley Crue, not really seeing home too much. Once it took off, they were just on tour, making albums and living the rock star life. So, yeah, and all manner of decadence. I imagine he did drugs, but he doesn't talk about it. And he never mentions drinking as a problem. I mean, I never heard him as someone who had a drinking problem per se in the media I've read, but he clearly drinks, and a lot. Has drunk, in the past, drink a lot. So I don't know how he balances that in a somewhat healthy way and productive. I don't know. He doesn't mention AA or anything like that. But again, this is 2005. But he does mention drinking a lot, and even up to the point of when the book came out. So, yeah, that's about it. If you're a Motley Crue fan, I guess you'll naturally be interested. But again, it's not going to satisfy too much of your Motley Crue curiosity. It's better to read Motley Crue books for that, I guess. But he does give his perspective on it, and he's basically positive about the whole Motley Crue experience. Of course, he mentioned some fights that he had, mostly with Vince Neil. Him and Vince would get into spats, and sometimes it was pretty ugly, Nikki Sixx and Mick Mars were at a kind of respectful distance, Mick Mars being more distant. Then he went into this kind of electronic music era, and which he might still be in now, as far as I make this video, 2023, at the end of the year. But yeah, and I've gone to listen to his solo stuff and Methods of Mayhem, the band that he created right after Motley Crue in the late 90s. And it doesn't speak to me, but what does speak to me about Tommy Lee is that he just can't stop. He can't help himself. He loves music. He really loves drums. He loves adventure. He loves exploration, expanding to new people. So I could definitely relate to that, and I respect him. And his honesty, people who live their life in the public eye, whether you like their lifestyle or not, I give them credit, because that's not easy to do. And especially to then be, to take the time to tell one side of the story, acknowledging errors and all that, which he does pretty well. So again, Tommyland, I don't give stars or anything in my ratings, but I enjoyed it as a Motley Crue fan, as a person who likes autobiographies. One other thing, Anthony Bozza, co-writer, this guy must be good at what he does, because I can't imagine Tommy Lee's brain was too orderly and too organized. So Anthony Bozza really makes this flow in a untraditional way, but a way that works for Tommy Lee and for him to tell a story. You're not going to get a great timeline because, you can imagine Tommy's brain is fairly mixed up from the whirlwind of his life. He didn't really keep journals, right? Or stuff like that. But Anthony Bozza works with them, and you get a coherent taste of who Tommy Lee really is, I think. So good job, Anthony Bozza, and good job, Tommy Lee. Glad I read it. Is it for everyone? No, but if you're into Motley Crue enough, and particularly Tommy Lee, then yeah, sure. And if you like reading autobiographies, it's a different take on, a different spin. So I enjoyed it. Okay, until next time, keep reading them books. See you later.